Used up all my vacation days, so I had to come back. Used up all my vacation and spent all my quarters that I've been saving up. So, yeah. Now you're trying to get me to come up front after the services is over, or invitation. We're in Luke 19. It is good to be back home. We have been going. We're almost done with Luke. I just have a few weeks left, I think. This is the last week of Jesus' life, or almost the last week. I always find it interesting that even though he foretells his death the third time there in 18, at the end of 18, and then he's so close to the crucifixion, and he takes time to heal people that are blind and in need, and then today we're going to see that he stops by and teaches a guy who a lot of people would say didn't deserve it, but Jesus takes the time because that's why he said he's here. And I think it's incredibly important that we look at things like this, and that we understand that Jesus made time for people. Made time for people in need, even when he was incredibly busy, and headed to a point that he knew had been coming. His especially the last 3 years. I don't know. I think we probably would as well start counting the days down if we were getting close like this. To an end that he makes clear that he doesn't want to go through. So I think it says a lot about our Savior that even in a time of distress and worry and hurry, chaos, he takes time to teach and to heal. In 19, it says, he entered Jericho and was passing through, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. And so we all know this story. I asked Doug to lead the song today, but he's not here. I'm kidding. It's such a well-known story. Don't know a ton about Zacchaeus. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem and for the last time, and passes through Jericho, and Zacchaeus lives there, and he describes him as the chief tax collector, which is only used here, and it says he was rich. So he wasn't just a regular tax collector. It doesn't seem like. It seems like he was kind of in charge of that area, which means that he was, the stuff that I looked at said, it described it as tax farming. And we've gone over this before with these tax collectors, Matthew as well, that they don't just work for the government, they also work for themselves, and they cheat people. They're typically Jewish people that collect taxes from the Jews for the Romans, and the Romans allow them to collect whatever they can, and so that's what they do. They tax farm, and he's a big part of this, and because of that, the Jewish people hate these people. They hate these tax collectors. They see them as traitors, and they see them as less than. You can tell that they even try to accuse them of not being sons of Abraham. Jesus says no, he is. Later in this story, And so you see a man that is, for a lot of people, and you'll see it in the next few verses, he is unworthy to speak to Jesus, to be around Jesus, for Jesus to take time out of what he's doing and spend time with this man. He is despised and hated. So he says, it says in verse 3, this is interesting, I thought, and I don't know if you know this. Zacchaeus' name means pure one, which is kind of interesting, since he is definitely not acting that way. It says in verse 3, and he was seeking to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd he could not, because he was small in stature. It says, so he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. He's dedicated. I'll give him that. It says he wanted to see Jesus. This is what I looked at. Through this story, you can see how we're to seek Jesus from Zacchaeus. Here's some lessons for us. To seek Jesus with real effort. Zacchaeus does that with real effort. I saw something last night that said he became childlike, which is what Jesus said that we have to be in order to find the kingdom, become like children, and he does that. You can see here. He climbs up in a tree like kids do sometimes, and so he gave real effort. He humbles himself. Probably. I don't know this. I know nowadays you don't see many adults climbing around in trees trying to see things. So he could have been laughed at or made fun of or something like that when he's, what is that guy doing up in a tree? Go ahead, Larry.
It was even much more than that because, man, I mean, he put himself in a very, very dangerous situation.
Yeah.
I mean, probably he was so recluse that not many people really could recognize him on sight, but still,
sure,
going out into public like he did, hated like he was.
Yeah.
He laid his life on the line to go see this Jesus.
Yeah, could have got a real beating, or killed. Yes, they did not like these kind of people. How to seek Jesus? So with real effort, humble yourself. You can seek Jesus no matter how sinful you are. That's important for us and for people who are in the world. And you see Jesus's reaction when he sees Zacchaeus. To do it without delay, to do it joyfully, to seek Jesus despite what others say, and then to seek Jesus for repentance, and then to make restitution. And that's what Zacchaeus does here. And I think that's important for us to seek Jesus with real effort and with a humble spirit, and then with a repentant heart. No matter what anybody says or how silly people think it is, I think if we did that, we would find Jesus because he wants us to seek him, and then he'll meet us. He'll put people in our lives that help us to find him, and he's produced his word so that we can read it and know about him. And anyway, anybody have anything on that real quick before we move to the next? Go ahead, Larry.
Well, I just think about the Christians of the first century that put themselves in literally mortal danger.
Right. Yeah.
To go worship.
Yes.
I mean, we get in our nice cars. We drive here this morning and sit in a really nice, comfortable building, and without a fear. We don't really have to be concerned that we're the government's going to bust down the doors this morning and take us all into custody and
Right.
take our homes and the cars and children. But they did. I mean, this is the way they worship God on the Lord's Day.
Yeah.
Especially those in Rome who would get up early and have to slip through the streets and go down in a sewer.
Yeah.
Not a comfortable building like we've got here.
Yeah.
But a sewer to worship God. And you know, of course we're this week we're thinking of being thankful.
Right.
We're talking about being thankful.
Yeah.
Man. And here again, this Zacchaeus wants to see Jesus so
Yeah.
bad that he's willing to put himself in that kind of danger.
Yeah.
To see him. It speaks of commitment, and you wonder, do I have that kind of commitment? Would I this morning, would you be willing to lay Michael and Maddie's life on the line to come to worship?
Yeah. And I'm glad I don't have to answer that. Yeah. I'm glad I can just wonder about it and it not be something that's on a daily occurrence, but people did. It is important. And I think that's a lesson that's part of Zacchaeus. I know we read past this very quickly, and it's just an interesting story, and we look at how Jesus is compassionate towards Zacchaeus and teaches him and the good things that come out of it. But some of it is like I said, it's an example of Zacchaeus to us. Because I look at some of these stories and I think, why is that in there? Why is that in the Bible? And I think part of the reason is because Zacchaeus is a good example. He is somebody that's not. He is not somebody that we would consider real holy, living rightly, and he seeks Jesus out and recognizes it. We'll see it in just a minute. Whatever it is about Jesus, and it doesn't talk about what Jesus said to him when they were at his house, but there must have been something about Jesus or what he said that it turned Zacchaeus' life around almost immediately, because you see what he says, and then we don't have a record that he went out and did what he said, but I think he probably did. I'm gonna have faith that Zacchaeus did what he promised Jesus. In the change in the lives of people after they find Jesus is amazing, and I think that's part of the reason it's a part of Luke's account, because it shows the change that takes place when Jesus comes into our lives, when we seek him and then we find him, and then the impact that it has in a really short amount of time, even sometimes. Let's keep going. It says, and when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. So, I'm sure that probably shocked him a little bit. He calls him out by name. I don't think that Zacchaeus knew Jesus. He just wants to see him. It's not like he was going to go, hey, Jesus, it's Zacchaeus over here. And so he hurries down. He hurried and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all grumbled. He has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. So you see this again, and apparently this wasn't just the Pharisees and the leaders. It was a lot of people standing around there, and they start griping and grumbling, and what is Jesus doing, associating with people like this? I mean, you've gone too far this time. We can't allow that to happen. Jesus can't be hanging out with people like that. But Zacchaeus doesn't let that discourage him. That would bother some of us, I think, if people, talked about us. And it says that he received Jesus joyfully. He was glad that Jesus had come into his life and that he wanted to go home with him. And so he takes him to his home. And it says, and Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, "Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold." There's the change. You see that a lot with Jesus' interaction with people. You see a change in their lives, and I know that we sometimes with our world get into, well, Jesus loves people, and so we can live however we want. And Jesus never leaves people in the situation that they were in and allows them to continue to live in sin. It's always a teaching and then a change that takes place. And you see that here in Zacchaeus. Now, some people don't. You see a choice that is given to either accept what Jesus is teaching and accept the life that he offers in the kingdom and the blessings that come from God, and to be a part of that, or to not be a part of that, to choose to go against Jesus and his teachings and his kingdom. And then you see what happens in this next parable, the destruction that is coming if we choose not to follow his teachings in God's kingdom. And Zacchaeus, to his credit, like I said, something that Jesus did affected his life, and he said, and this is probably not a short list of people that he has defrauded. And he says, I'm going to give half of everything I've got to the poor, and then I'm going to restore it fourfold to anybody that I've cheated. And I'm assuming Zacchaeus was married. I don't know if his wife's like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of money, man. Sheesh, we're gonna be out in the street. But that's what he commits, and I don't think he did it lightly to impress Jesus. I think he meant it. It seems like, and from Jesus's reaction, you can. I mean, he knows people's hearts. I don't think Jesus would have reacted this way if he would have thought Zacchaeus was just saying something to impress Jesus. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to throw a wrench into you.
Okay.
He does use the word "if" here when he says.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And my understanding is that, believe it or not, there were actually some relatively honest tax collectors out there.
Maybe few and far between. Yeah.
Texting me too, so I'm getting this partly from him. But it's possible that he really was trying to be an honest tax collector, and we know Matthew was a tax collector too. So either we assume he was corrupt before Jesus found him, or he was a pretty decent guy. And I think, I don't know the exact, because what I know about tax collecting is from fictional books that I've read. So I don't know if it's true or not. But my understanding is that the Roman emperor said you have to collect so much, but then whatever you get on top of that, you get to keep.
That's how they make their living.
Okay.
Yes.
So
he wouldn't have been rich.
there might have been some excess collection, but it wouldn't necessarily have been fraud.
Well, no. So that's the way that it's fraud would be that they didn't owe that tax.
Oh, okay.
He was just taking it from them for himself.
Anyway, it's not outside the realm of possibility that Zacchaeus was doing whatever was within the law, but he wanted to cover his base and just say, okay, but if somehow I have defrauded somebody, I want to make sure that that's right too. He was just, I think, trying to cover his bases. I don't think he was a dishonest person.
Okay. Sometimes if is sense within the word, so that's sometimes in there because Jesus says stuff like that.
Right.
If this and it means sense.
Right.
That's fine. I mean, I don't think that's I
half of what he has before.
right.
And then if he was made a practice of defrauding a lot of people, I'm not so sure he would have been able to give fourfold. Exactly.
So I'm with her. I think he probably was not an overly dishonest tax collector.
He wouldn't have had anything left if he really done what
I don't know. I think he is his description is chief, and his description is that he is wealthy, and you don't get that way by not collecting more than you're supposed to.
Think about it,
And I'm not saying,
right? If I say I'm going to give half of what I have away first,
yeah,
then I'm going to restore everything I've taken through fraud fourfold.
yeah, it's a lot.
But I don't know that he would have had enough unless he had some other source of income.
He may have, but what I'm saying is tax collectors in general, and you can go through all of that stuff, and you can go through history. They defrauded people. That's why they were hated. They were not hated. They were not hated because they're honest folks. They are hated because, one, they worked for the Romans against the Jews, and two, they farmed taxes. That's the way they made money. They charged what the Romans wanted, and then the Romans left it up to them to get as much as they thought they could get away with. And so I don't know about investments or business or anything like that after, but if you look at the crowds and their reaction, they knew him. They knew who he was and what he was about, and they say, "What is Jesus doing with this guy?" And I don't think Zacchaeus was, like I said, I don't think he was unknown in that community with those folks. And you can say, in the if, and I get it. But I don't think Jesus would have said what he said about Zacchaeus if he hadn't been defrauding people. He says, "Today salvation has come to this house." Now, there's not a big need if he's following the law and he's doing things. We're talking about a big change. If Jesus is saying that he is also a son of Abraham, people would say, you're a traitor. You are a traitor for doing this. You don't belong to Abraham if you're up to this. And so he's saying, no, he is genetically a son, but also because of his faith and his sincerity in what he has decided to do. He's changing his life. That's part of salvation. You have to change from what you've been up to. I don't. To me, it just seems that he is on a path, and then Jesus changes that path for him. Go ahead, Larry.
They weren't allowed to pray in the temple, and they weren't allowed to testify in court because their word was so
Right, and I'm not. I don't know. He may have been. It doesn't seem like he is just completely honest in his business dealings. But
He may not have been.
maybe there was one or two. I'm not saying there's not exceptions to the rule, but
Just pointed out in his text to me that even today we don't like tax collectors a lot.
right.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's honest.
Yeah, but they're a little different. I mean, they're bound by, legalities and things like that, and we have all kinds of rules, and I know there's loopholes and all that stuff. I don't want to get into politics, but man, welcome back. Let's talk about let's just bring it all up. We can figure all this out today. Anything else on that? Here's an important statement at the end. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. And that's an incredible statement. he again states his mission to seek and save those like Zacchaeus and like all the other people that he has taught. The woman caught in adultery, the Samaritan woman, his disciples, all of the people, that the rich young ruler. I mean, he's tried over and over to teach and to save the lost, and that's what he continues to be about, even in the face of his crucifixion, which is, like I said, it's about a week away. So.
Well, I think you pointed out just now, but if you go back to chapter 18, we're looking at the rich ruler,
Yeah.
and their responses are exactly opposite.
Yes.
And that is what is praiseworthy about them.
Sure.
Is Christ only had reached out people who either circumstance or sin has kept them from being in fellowship with Him.
Yeah.
And that's true today.
Yeah.
So we have to look beyond circumstance and someone's sin and see the opportunity to reach a soul.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
And that's what's beautiful about Jesus, is he reaches over and says, you can be a part of this too. Even when we were enemies of God, he extends that grace to us and that opportunity, that path back to him. And he was doing it then, and he still does it today in 2025. And that never gets old. And I think sometimes we can become like the people that are around going, what? That guy? There's no way. No, You guys know what he's been up to? Come on now. That is crazy. There's no way that person can be a Christian. There's something going on here. They're up to something, and I hope we don't do that, because that would we need to, if we're going to be like Jesus, then we have to have that attitude that we care, we love sinners, and that we want them to be saved, just like Jesus did. Anything else on Zacchaeus? Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. And you see complete opposites with the love of money and then the love of Jesus with Zacchaeus, and he lets it go. He lets his fortune go, and the rich young ruler gets upset, and he keeps his money. It means more, and he turns and walks off, and he's disturbed by Jesus's teaching, and what he doesn't recognize that Zacchaeus does is what Jesus is offering is way more valuable than riches. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't see that. In Zacchaeus's example here, he does, and it becomes, like Paul says, like rubbish. The things that I have don't measure up to what God offers, and I would lose everything if it meant that I got to go to heaven. And you see Zacchaeus doing that. You see. Like I said, Paul doing that as well. Go ahead.
I just want to make one comment on what Larry said earlier.
Yeah.
About us being faced with persecution and things like that. I don't think it's that we're not faced with that. I think ours is much more subtle. So.
It may not be physical violence, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I'll give an example. Like where I work, there was this whole big movement of bringing your full self to work. Right? And most of the things that people were talking about in that concept were things that the Bible says are sin.
Right.
Right? But do
think you can.
We can and we should.
Well, I mean, I think you can let it slip. But
I think we do.
sometimes maybe, yeah.
And we use the excuse of, well, I can be fired, or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I teach school, so I mean, there's things I can do and there's things that I can't do. But I,
Condone. We have to make sure that we're not being ashamed of Jesus.
sure, and yeah, that's that's an interesting thing with at work. I mean, those are things I think you can definitely shine your light. There's no doubt.
I think in some ways this may be a harder thing to do than if it was so blatant of you're going to get killed if you do this, or because it really works on us.
So yeah, it can.
Subtleness of it.
And maybe too, it's just something that I mean, I obviously can't stand in front of my class and read God's word and do that kind of thing. And that's okay. I can do a lot of stuff, and we do. And people do things at their own job, and I mean, it just is. There's certain things that you can and can't do at your place of work. That you still show Jesus and His love and example, and you don't get fired for it. That's just the world we live in, and
That's the world we live in, and that's our battle.
sure, yeah,
It's different, but it's hard.
yeah, it's not easy. No, we don't face some of the things that these folks face for sure. Anything else on Zacchaeus? Sorry, I didn't mean to spend the whole class on Zacchaeus. Who'd have thought that? We'll end it with the song here in just a minute. This parable is interesting. It's very similar to the talent parable. And it's told, it gives the purpose in 11. It says, as they heard these things, he proceeded to tell a parable because he was near to Jerusalem and because they supposed that the kingdom of God was to appear immediately. So it sounds like what his followers and his disciples are thinking is, man, we're getting real close. Jesus is about to appear to everybody, and we're about to take over, and he's going to set up his kingdom as we get in Jerusalem. And it's about to go down, and we're going to be a part of this. And so he tells this parable to take care of some of those thoughts, in that he is gonna go away. He's told them that he's going to be killed, and they don't want to believe that. And some of them just refuse. They refuse to believe that that's going to happen, or that they're going to let that happen. And so he tells this to his disciples to warn them and to also instruct how to conduct themselves while he's absent. So it says in verse 12, he said therefore, a nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and then return. And calling 10 of his servants, he gave them 10 minas, and he said to them, engage in business until I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a delegation after him, saying, we do not want this man to reign over us. And when he returned, having received the kingdom, he ordered these servants, to whom he had given the money, to be called to him, that he might know what they had gained by doing business. And the first came before him, saying, Lord, your mina has turned 10 minas more. And he said to him, well done, good servant, because you have been faithful in a very little you shall have authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Lord, your mina has made 5 minas. And he said to him, and you are to be over 5 cities. So you see through these first few verses, The nobleman calls his servants together, distributes this money. It's a mine as a silver coin. It was worth about 3 or 4 months' wages. And he tells them to use the resources he's given them to conduct business. And we see later, it's not about the money. It's about their character and about their work ethic and about who they are, and what they're doing for the kingdom. And so you see in verse 12, he's gone off into a far country. Jesus is the nobleman, obviously. He's going to leave them and go to heaven to receive his kingdom. And then eventually he's going to come back. And you see that there are people who hate the nobleman and they reject his authority. And so he first deals with his servants, the ones that he gave the minas to. And he ordered them to give an account. And so the first two, they've done very well. They've pleased the nobleman. And he tells them that, well done, good servant. And then he gives them authority and blesses them. And so you see when people are faithful and when they work for the nobleman and they live right lives, they're rewarded for their effort and they're called good and faithful, which is obviously what we want. And you see this again and again when Jesus, and we talked about this earlier, when Jesus teaches, there's always choices that are to be made. He leaves people with choices. Which side are you going to be on? Are you going to be a part of the good and faithful, or are you going to be a part of the group that rejects and that is wicked, in the group that will be blessed or the group that will be destroyed? Never forces it on people. He always gives those people choices, just like we have choices. In the message that he gives, that we have through the completed word. In 20, you see the unfaithful servant. It says, then another came saying, Lord, here's your mina, which I kept laid away in a handkerchief, for I was afraid of you, because you're a severe man. You take what you did not deposit and reap what you did not sow. So he basically tells the nobleman, you didn't need my help. I didn't do anything because you don't need my help. You get stuff even if I don't help you. And he says, here you go. Here's your coin back. Basically, I was lazy and disobedient, and I haven't done anything. And he says in 22, this is his response. He said to him, I will condemn you with your own words, you wicked servant. You knew that I was a severe man, taking what I did not deposit and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not put my money in the bank, and at my coming I might have collected it with interest? And so he says to him, knowing what you knew, that there would be a judgment day, why did you not do anything? You knew I was coming back, and you knew what kind of judgment would take place, and yet you did absolutely zero. You didn't even do the bare minimum. That's what he said. You could have done the bare minimum. You could have taken my money and put it in the bank, and I could have gotten it with interest. You didn't even do that. And so he says you're rejected because of your laziness and your disobedience. And not even, you knew who I was, you knew how serious it was, and yet you did absolutely zero. And unfortunately, what he is saying is what is going to happen to people, and you cry out, hey, we know you. We know who you are. We've done things for you. And Jesus is going to say, I don't know who you are. I don't know you. And that's what he's saying here to this servant. I don't know you. You've done nothing. And then later, we'll pick up with this next week. Then he takes what he's got and he gives it to other people. And then he's going to take care of the people who heard the message and rejected it outright. And those folks are going to be severely punished for what has happened. Anyway, sorry to leave you on a kind of a note right before Thanksgiving, but we'll pick up there and keep going next week.